Yes, GS Paul again. Today's lesson is about respiratory system. Before I start with this respiratory system, I would like to connect this lesson with our previous lessons. That is digestive system, if you remember, where the food was digested and converted into its soluble form, absorbed by the blood and brought into the blood, and then blood distributed the food along with oxygen to different parts of the body through arterial system. And the food, it was used in the body, and the blood was brought back as deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body through venous system to the heart. And then it was oxygenated again through the lungs and distributed. Now, I will be now telling you that how that oxygen was converted into carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide was thrown to the outside from the body. This lesson, this part of the subject is respiratory system. Now, all those organs which are involved in the process of respiration or in respiratory system constitute what is called as a respiratory system. Now, in the respiratory system, the first thing is breathing. I believe you know what is breathing. That is taking in of the oxygen and throwing out of the carbon dioxide. The oxygen that we take in, it goes in by the process of inspiration, and this inspirated air has oxygen. Then this air which has gone in is thrown to the outside by breathing out, called expiration, and this expiration has oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now, this process of breathing is actually taking in or inhaling the air having oxygen and throwing out or exhaling the having carbon dioxide. This inhaling and exhaling together constitute what is called breathing. Now, in the process of breathing, in addition to inspiration and expiration, there's a little interval in between the two processes of inhaling and exhaling. That interval is called pause. So inspiration, pause, expiration constitutes one breath or one breathing. Now, I guess you know how many times do we breathe in 1 minute? Now, we roughly breathe around 15 times per minute, which means the time taken for the air to go in and the time taken for the air to come out and stay for a while inside the lungs. Now, I'll show you the passage through which air having oxygen goes into the body, and the passage through which air is pushed out from the lungs to the outside. Now, that will involve the organs of respiration. As I have already said, all the organs which are involved in the process of respiration or breathing constitute what is called as a respiratory system. Now, here are the organs of respiration, the external layers, the olfactory sac, the internal layers, the pharynx, and then the larynx, epiglottis, windpipe, which is also called a trachea. This trachea branches into two branches called the bronchus. The two are called bronchi, and each bronchi in the respective lung divides and redivides into many branches called bronchioles. Now, and the bronchioles, of course, then open into balloon-like structures called the air sacs. Now, all this passage of the incoming air or outgoing air is lined by tracheal rings, which are incomplete rings. They keep the tracheal passage always open. The other thing that has to be pointed out here, the whole tracheal passage is lined by small hair-like structure called cilia. Starting from the external layers, the olfactory sac, the internal layers, the trachea, the bronchi, the bronchioles have small hair-like structures which keep on moving always towards the upper side, which means as the air comes in like this, the cilia move towards the outer side. This is called countercurrent principle. And the whole air passage, the respiratory tract, is lined by a mucous membrane. This mucus, right from the nose up to the bronchioles and bronchi, attract or catches the germs, the bacteria or the viruses and the dust particles. Anything which is present in the air is sort of arrested by them, and then these cilia push them out up to the pharynx, and from the pharynx it can be either swallowed through the food pipe or it is thrown to the outside as a film. That's a protective or defense mechanism, so that the air that goes in is pure. And number two, all that air which goes in from the outside is always heated up to the body temperature. As it passes through the olfactory sac, here, there are certain sinuses, and as the air passes through these sinuses, it gets heated it gets warmed up to the temperature of the body. Hence, invariably always, the air that gets into the air sacs is at body temperature. Now, we have to see now how this air is sucked in or how this air is pushed out. How inspiration and how expiration takes place. In addition to these organs, there is a structure called a diaphragm, which is below the lungs, and it is generally dome-shaped, like that. And there are muscles in between the ribs called intercostal muscles, which are actually two sets: external intercostal muscles and internal intercostal muscles. Now, how the air comes in, inhaling. What happens is, during the process of inhaling, the diaphragm, which is dome-shaped, becomes like this. Like that. And the intercostal muscles in the region of the chest are pushed out. They contract, and the thoracic cavity is pushed inwards in such a way that this thoracic cavity increases in its volume towards the outer side and towards the lower side. So the thoracic cavity becomes like that, in such a way that the pressure around the lungs is decreased. Because the pressure around the lungs is decreased, the lungs expand. What I mean is, actually, the air sacs in the lungs expand. These balloons, they expand. And when they expand, the pressure inside the air sacs is decreased. The pressure inside the air sacs is decreased as compared to the atmospheric pressure outside. And the air sacs are connected with the air outside through the respiratory tract. So because the pressure in the air sacs is reduced, the air from outside is sucked in through the external layers, olfactory sac, the internal layers, the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the two bronchi respectively in two lungs, and each bronchus then divides and redivides into many branches called bronchioles. And the bronchioles end up in small air sacs or alveoli. Hence, the air from outside has now sucked into the air sacs. Inspiration, inhaling, taking the atmospheric air into the air sacs. Now, as the air comes into the air sac becomes inflated. This is what? Inspiration. Now, this air stays in the air sac for a while. What happens during that interval, I mean that pause, we'll see. Now, then what happens? The second set of intercostal muscles contract, and the diaphragm, which was depressed like that, raises out, becomes dome-shaped in such a way that the volume inside the thoracic cavity decreases. Because this volume is now decreased, which means the lungs are compressed. Because the lungs are compressed, the air sacs are also compressed. Hence, the air from the air sacs is pushed out through the bronchioles, into the bronchi, into the trachea, through the larynx, through the pharynx, internal layers, olfactory sac, and external layers to the outside. This process of pushing the air from the air sacs or the alveoli to the outside is called expiration or exhaling. So what is important here, or what is to be noted, is that inspiration and expiration is brought about by a set of muscles called intercostal muscles and the diaphragm. Now, what happens during that while as the air stays in the air sacs? This is the air coming in, and that's it going out. Inspiration and expiration. During this process, the deoxygenated blood, each air sac is richly supplied with deoxygenated blood. And the walls of the blood vessels, the venules, which pass over the air sacs, is so thin that the air from the blood, the oxygenated blood, can diffuse from the blood into the alveolus. That diffusion can take place. And not only that, actually, even the food from the blood comes out, and the waste product is taken up by the blood. But here I'm only concerned with the carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide comes out and oxygen is taken up in the air sacs during that interval. And the blood becomes deoxygenated blood, becomes oxygenated blood, and this oxygenated blood then goes into each cell of the body. Each cell of the body. Now, that is the exchange of gases, carbon dioxide and oxygen in the air sac. As I have already said, that these air sacs actually remain always aerated. This air always stays, some air always stays in the air sacs, which means this current of air keeps on moving in such a way that the sum of the mixed air, that means the polluted air and the fresh air, gets intermixed, and this intermixed air stays in the air sacs always, which is actually called the residual air in the air sacs or in the lungs. Now, so that's what happens during this interval, the pause. Now we have seen that the air that goes in, the inspired air, and the air that comes out, the expired air, are different. We have to now look at what are the differences. The differences between inspired air and expired air. Keep in your mind, inspired air is this air, and expired air is which comes out. The inspired air, this air has around 78% nitrogen, oxygen 21%, carbon dioxide 0.03%. It has less moisture, it has less bacteria and low temperature. But the air that comes out, expired air, same percentage of nitrogen, but oxygen has reduced from 21% to 16%. That means 5% of the oxygen has been used up here, which have gone into the blood, oxygenated blood, that carries oxygen to different parts of the body. Carbon dioxide, which is 0.03%, has increased to 5%, which means there's more carbon dioxide in the air that comes out. The moisture, which was less when the air was inspired, and the moisture is more than the inspired air. Similarly, the bacteria and other germs, they were less in this air. But as it goes into the lungs and comes out, the bacteria and germs from the air sac in the expired air are comparatively more. Exactly like that, when the air got into our body through inspiration, the temperature of the air was comparatively less, but the air that comes out is at the body temperature. Hence, the temperature is higher. So, these are the differences between the inspired air and the expired air, which you have to remember, or you have to take note of it. Now, what happens to this oxygen which has gone from the air sacs or from this respiratory system inside the blood? Now, this oxygen oxidizes the food that we have eaten. I told you in the digestive system that we eat food for energy, then building up of the tissues, the repair, and the formation of other constituents of the body. The first thing that the food is used for production of energy is in the process of respiratory system. Now, I'm now telling you what is respiration. The process of oxidation of food in the presence of enzymes to produce energy, and carbon dioxide and water in the cell or in the mitochondria contained in the cell is called respiration. Mind you, respiration is oxidation of food to produce energy. It's a biochemical process, whereas breathing is a physical process. It involves the actions of the body. I'm repeating. Oxidation of food which is present in the cells in the form of glucose, in the presence of enzymes which are present in the mitochondria to produce energy, water and carbon dioxide. This chemical reaction, this biochemical process is called respiration. So, respiration is the oxidation of food to produce carbon dioxide, energy and water. Now, this carbon dioxide then goes into the blood, and this blood comes here. So, exchange of gases takes place inside the mitochondria or inside the cell, inside each cell of the body. How many cells? All cells. The energy is being produced. Now, for each cell to remain alive, energy is required. Consequently, in each cell, always 24 hours, energy is being produced. In addition to that, all those functions which are to be performed by a particular cell, energy is required for that activity as well. So, this energy will be used there. So, basically, the energy is produced to keep the cell alive, to keep the cell living. Now, you must notice here that we have brought carbon dioxide from each part of the body or each cell of the body into the blood venous system, and this deoxygenated blood then goes into the lungs, where carbon dioxide is removed and oxygen is again brought in. This is the process of respiration and breathing together constitute what is called as respiratory system. That's what I wanted to tell you today. The new thing which has come in today, that each cell has structures called mitochondria, and oxidation takes place only in the mitochondria because the enzymes which are required for the process of respiration are present only in mitochondria. Now, that is the lesson for today. I mean, respiratory system. Of course, it is different from breathing. You have to keep this thing in mind. Right. As this lesson is virtual, you might be having some questions. All those questions that come into your mind, please write those questions in the comments section. I'll answer all those questions from the comment section. I wish if it could be a lesson in person. Actually, in person, you put the subject matter across to the students and you develop a rapport with the students, and the students ask questions and you answer. That is teaching, right? Under the circumstances, virtual teaching is also teaching, but I consider this as a second class type of teaching. So you can put your questions in the comment section. I'll answer all those questions. Now, at the end of the lesson, I have two assignments. One is differentiate between the inspired and expired air. There it is, by the way.
and then draw out differences between breathing and respiration. Breathing and respiration. You have to draw out the difference. If you do it, take it from me, you have done. You have followed the process of the respiratory system. That's all for today. Thank you.